Hey everybody, it's Julie. Today I'm going to be talking about the acknowledgments page, that page at the beginning of a book where you say all your thank yous. If you don't have a book deal or you're nowhere close or you're not even done writing the book yet, you may be thinking, isn't it a little premature to be thinking about who I'm going to thank when I've made it? Well, I assure you it is not too early to begin thinking about how your acknowledgments page is going to go. This is usually one of the last things to get decided, but it can cause some stress if you're trying to come up with who did I forget at the very last minute. So if you start keeping track of these things now, you'll have a much easier time in the long run. So I'm going to talk about some categories of people that you need to remember to thank, or at least you should think about thanking. But before I get into that, I want to say one thing about thank you pages. If for any reason you might have sensitive material in your book, or just, I guess, in general, you should always think about the fact that if you are thanking someone in a public document that is going to be published, like a book, that person's name is going to be associated with your book, and they have to be okay with that. So if you have any suspicion that maybe a person wouldn't want to be thanked, you might consider asking them first, or only using a first name and a last initial, something like that, because you never know what people are going to get upset about. You might also want to keep in mind that because relationships change, having a different spouse or a different partner, or possibly just not being friends with someone anymore after a period of years has gone by, you might want to think about, do I really want to put overly personal messages to certain people? And even if you're optimistic about staying friends with a person for a long time or having a person in your life for a long time, you want to consider that maybe the front page of a book is not the place to be talking about your undying devotion or whatever else, because you never know who that might be making uncomfortable in the future. So think about that, whether it's going to stand the test of time, and whether you really need to be having that on a thank you page. The first category to consider for your acknowledgments page, though these aren't in any order, are informational sources. Anybody who helped you with the content of your book. These might be people who helped you with research, maybe people who gave you personal perspectives on how to write a certain kind of character. Maybe they gave you details about their profession that helped you realistically write one of your scenes or one of your characters. So keep in mind anybody who assisted you finding the actual information that you use for your book. Category 2, anyone who helped you with the actual meat of your book, the content of it. This would include any of your test readers, your beta readers, maybe writing teachers if you had those, and anybody who has acted as a mentor for you in the actual development of the book. Category 3 is anyone who helped you financially. That might sound like a strange one because a lot of people think of writing a book as a solitary endeavor, but say if you are being financially supported by someone else so that you are enabled to write this book and have the time to do it or the support to do it, you may want to thank a person who did that, or you may have a more direct financial contribution, such as a person who actually gave you a grant for something or participated in some kind of program. Also, if you happen to be a self-published author or anyone who has financed their own campaign for something indie, anything that involved collecting and raising money, you may want to thank anyone who was involved in those. Category 4 is everyone's favorite, the personal section, your family and friends. Again, you want to make sure that your family and friends are okay with being mentioned in your acknowledgments, or else do it semi-anonymously. But you want to put in anybody who, even if they didn't help you with the actual book or even read it before it was published, you may want to thank them for personal support in your life. Somebody who has been an inspiration to you in general, somebody who has been supportive of you being a writer, anybody that you want to mention who you feel is personally contributing to both the success of your book and your success as a person. And category 5, not everybody has one of these, but your inspirations. If you have a particular writer that you found inspirational to write books like yours, anybody who's your hero, anybody who's led a movement or participated in a community that has inspired you, you may want to mention them in your acknowledgments. And the last category is the one that you can't complete until you actually get the book deal or get the book ready to go out into the world. And that would be anybody on the publishing side who has helped you bring the book to its present form. That would include if you have an agent, your editor, your publisher, your publicist, maybe a cover designer, anybody who has worked indirectly or directly on the book. Sometimes you don't get to know these people's names, and you may have to ask if you want to personally thank them. And a lot of them are thrilled to be mentioned because they're so often overlooked in these sorts of situations. So giving them a nod in your acknowledgments if you feel like it's appropriate, that is always a really nice way to acknowledge their assistance. Now obviously not everybody is going to have all these categories. I certainly didn't. But I recommend, I've always been a list maker, so this was very easy and natural for me, but that might not be you. I recommend starting a list of anybody that you feel like along the way you worked with somebody or asked somebody a question that really helped you out. You don't have to name every single person, but it is a good idea to just at least keep track of the people who have contributed and helped you and supported you, so that you have something to draw on when the time comes to write that acknowledgments page. You may be staring at a deadline and staring at a blank page and thinking, who am I going to thank? And you're definitely going to leave people out if you don't prepare for this. When I had my book coming out, one of the major things that I did was I invited a very large test audience to look at particular parts of the book, and that was kind of unique to my book because it's a nonfiction book that had a lot of specialized categories that reflected experiences that were not my own. So I asked people in those demographics to take a look at those sections, and I asked each person as they were doing it what name they wanted me to mention in the acknowledgments. Some people preferred not to be mentioned, and remember, some people are not going to want to be acknowledged in a public document, so you really have to keep track of these sorts of things. There's nothing wrong with asking them after the fact if it's okay for you to thank them, although it may seem a little bit presumptuous sometimes if it's way ahead of the game and you have no book deal on the horizon. Hey, can I thank you in my acknowledgments? So you may want to hold on to that permission request up until the time that you're even sure you want to thank them for anything. But it never hurts to keep track of these things. Keep a database that is associated with your document, and that way you won't forget where you put it. And just remember that nobody really writes a book alone, so it's common practice to acknowledge the help that you may have had coming to this point. So let me know if you have any questions about acknowledgments or anything that you want to share regarding your own tips for keeping track of these things, or ideas for categories of people that you think should be thanked in the acknowledgments that I may not have mentioned. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.